we have Jerry, Larry, Christy, and Brian from the council. We have Annabelle from, everybody but Peter. We have Annabelle from LIRR Government Relations. We have Ron Troy and Stu Dresser. And Christopher D. Greif. We have myself, Kara, and Jack. Jess is out today.
All righty, so we'll call the meeting to order at 4:33 p.m. Since this isn't a live in-person meeting, it won't be an official meeting, an informational meeting, so we'll have to hold off on approving the agenda and the meeting minutes until next month. So we'll go right down to my report. On Sunday, me and Lisa attended a press conference with Senator Chuck Schumer in Mineola, where Senator Schumer announced that he had secured $1.25 billion for the repair of the East River tunnels. This was just one of a series of announcements that Senator Schumer had made over the last few days. He had secured a considerable amount of money for the Gateway Project tunnel under the Hudson River. He had secured a considerable amount of money for the extension of the 2nd Avenue subway. So it was kind of a nice trifecta for the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Other than that, we've got new schedules going to effect on Monday, the 13th. We've gotten mixed reviews from our ridership on that. Hopefully more people are happy than unhappy, but it does indicate that the Long Island Railroad is trying to address riders' concerns, and that's all we can ask for at this point. Speaking of riders' concerns, there is a customer satisfaction survey that is starting. When did that start? This Monday, Lisa? The customer satisfaction survey?
It started on Monday. Yep.
Started on Monday. So we would ask any and all of you to please avail yourself to that survey and give them your opinion. Other than that, all's been kind of quiet in the last month. So I'm going to turn this over to Lisa to update you on some of the PCA office issues, in particular, our efforts to secure a new associate director. Take it away, Lisa.
Thank you. I took the survey. I wanted to take it before I suggested other people do it. It's kind of like, trying something before you tell somebody else it's good. And it does, they tell you it takes about 15 minutes. It takes about 15 minutes. Interestingly, it looks very similar to the one that they had shared with us last April. That says, you transfer, did you have to transfer before the launch of Grand Central Madison? How satisfied are you with the service now? I absolutely encourage people to take it. You can do two different services. I did the Long Island Railroad and subway service. And one of the things I thought was particularly interesting when Shanifa Rivera, who is the customer outreach person, communications person at the press conference on Monday, talked about how this is the first survey that they've launched since different fare products have been in place, and since different fare products have gone away. So I did take the opportunity to talk about how I thought that we needed to bring back either a 20-trip ticket or reinstate, or to bring in something like a 15-trip, a 10-trip peak ticket discount at 15%, which is one of the recommendations that we had in our Omni report. And also the intra-city combo ticket, which we recommended, and the city ticket weekly. So as you fill it out, please, consider being as specific as you want with regard to what you want at your stations, with regard to the different kinds of tickets that you think are important, and other things that you think are important to riders, especially to get them back on board. So it takes a little more thought than just going through your regular, yes, doing a diamond pattern on multiple choice. But it was it was a good exercise for me to also think about why I'm grading different services in a certain way. So it's, I'm not going to say it's fun, but you could win a Metro card. To that end, I did reach out and speak to some of the MTA brass about the question that's been raised about passes. And I'm waiting to hear back, and I'll follow up with them at the board meeting if I don't see them sooner. The next board meeting is on the 29th of November, after Thanksgiving. It's right here. On
Yeah.
that day, they'll also, the board is also expected to vote on congestion pricing. We anticipate that the congestion pricing recommendations will probably be issued either late at the end of next week or the week of Thanksgiving surprise. So we, as we try to find out more, there's apparently been a good clampdown put on the Traffic Mobility Review Board members, who are very happy to say to me, "Oh, I can't say anything to you." But Jerry did find, and I
experienced that live and in person on Sunday.
Yeah, well, he did say after he was stung by a bee, so he wanted to get out of there, that
Yep.
I can't really say anything, but I think we're waiting for FHWA to respond to something. So that was more than we'd heard on a number of different fronts. We have gotten some good on the associate director front. We've gotten some good applicants, and now we'll begin the process of calling them in for paring them down, parsing them down, calling them in for the first round of interviews. And hopefully we will have a good set to bring to the executive committee for round 2 of interviews before the year is out. I think that will, I want to say that should be easy, but there is nothing easy about the MPA hiring process. So I'm not going to even pretend that anything will be easy about it. But I think we've got definitely have a good host of candidates, and a couple of people have expressed interest in considering continuing to consider for that. We are continuing to speak with elected officials regarding the Omni report, and they are really picking up the mantle and in looking at ways to move it forward. You know, what can we do about progressing, rationalizing ticket types, and what does the state legislature need to do to make some of our recommendations a reality? And we are looking forward to continuing to work with Senator Comrie and others on that agenda. This is, as you may know, SOMOS, which is a big conference for the with the state legislature and many others that's happening in Puerto Rico right now. So that is where the action is happening, and we're not there. This is not, the background here is not Puerto Rico. So this is not a beach cover up. But we anticipate starting next week we'll really be able to move some things forward and progress not just the conversation about some opportunities to take our recommendations to the next level, but also talk about things like voting membership and what it means to, or what steps we'll need to take to get the three name requirement for LIRRCC out of the council authorization, which sounds as though it might be a little bigger lift than anticipated, but that's okay.
Metro North doesn't have that requirement, right?
Correct.
So it seems odd that they would not have that requirement for Metro North, but have it for us. It's inconsistent.
I think that's also Long Island also has it on the MTA board. So there must be some kind of interesting skull, crossbones, and legacy going back for that.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah. So, but we were advised that the governor's office will probably need to get involved in that. And I'm going to bet that there are some of the people who we need to speak. I've been trying to reach out to our contacts there, and the people we really need to reach out to are probably in Puerto Rico right now. So that will continue apace as well. Kara, what am I missing?
I think that you covered everything that we have been working on.
Yeah, that's where that's the most immediate. Jerry will be speaking at the Vision Long Island Smart Growth Summit on December 1st. Jerry, did you get the email from Eric that went out earlier this week?
I received an email. I didn't know that it came from you or Eric, but I did receive an email regarding that.
Okay,
And
I'll respond.
it mentioned the panel members.
Yeah.
Me, Rob Free, the gentleman from the freight. I don't know what the guy from the freight's there for, but that's
right. And
whatever.
So we'll
And
work on that presentation.
Yeah, I think somebody from NICE and or a couple other people. So
yeah. So that's that will be good. And an opportunity to see where all of the regional transit fits in, all the regional transportation fits in, and how transit fits into that, and an opportunity to meet, mix, and mingle with some newly elected and some ongoing members of the Long Island elected bodies.
well, most of the state people are the same. It's the local people. It's the county legislators and the county executive in Suffolk that changed. So, all righty. Anything else, Lisa?
I believe that's it. Does anybody have any questions for me? Okay.
Okay, having none, we'll go down to
the Stuart does, and Christopher both have questions, but Stuart had his hand up first.
All right, you moderate it because I can't see too much off my phone here. So
okay,
I just want to comment right now on the survey, although I have a few other things I'd like to raise later. Thank you for getting the does not apply choice on some of the pages. The survey, though, still seems to have some confounding design issues. Like on one page, we're asked to rate our satisfaction with service reliability, with on-time performance, and with frequency of delays. Now, it'd be kind of interesting to see how many respondents gave different scores for each of those three, because I can't practically discern the difference between them. So unless that's an intentional design to see how consistent each respondent is, the survey question suggests some bad work in the design. I could raise others. There's a page where they ask you something like, what's the primary kind of ticket you choose? And one choice is off-peak round trip, and another choice is senior. And so what do you choose if you're both getting a senior discount on an off-peak round trip? Once again, the survey results begin to be meaningless if you can't make the right choice, because it's just not an option. So I hope this is a trivial matter of a survey, but when I see this sort of thing as a commuter, I worry that it's emblematic of an agency that often gives short shrift to a lot of often meaningful details. So that's my comment on that, and I'll reserve the rest of my remarks for later. Thank you.
Okay. I thought I agree that I thought there was a lot of redundancy, and I had to think a little bit about the difference between service reliability and delays, but to me that's they are different, but I also may be steeped in this.
Well, it would be hard for a lot of, I think, respondents, including myself. I mean, I can come up with a difference between service reliability and delays, but the other two choices, remember, are on-time performance and frequency of delays. I don't know what the difference is. Maybe there is, but I don't think most of us would think of them.
Well, it'll be interesting to see as others in the group take the survey, what your feedback is also.
Hey, Lisa.
Yes,
not to throw another log on your fire, but maybe that's something we might want to just compile a brief thing for the railroad or the MTA to relay comments like that back to them. You know, this way, next time they do a survey, if they do another survey in the spring or whatever, maybe they can incorporate some of our comments into that and maybe make some adjustments.
My understanding is that in years past, they used to have the councils review the surveys first.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
they
the
provide
note we can
feedback
use also, you know.
Yeah, but I think that a lot of things have changed at the MTA's leadership. So that probably is not even a whisper of a memory
No,
in a lot
no,
of places.
but it's something worth bringing up.
Yeah.
All righty, did say Chris had something?
Chris does, and then Larry.
Yes, I do want to just add, I agree with about the survey because, you know, one thing everyone's complaining about is why they're not talking about accessibility. So there's some groups have been complaining about that. And I know the last time they still complained that there was lack of discussing about accessibility, like elevators, ramps at the Long Island Railroad, but also once you leave, they should also do a survey how Long Island Cares has been doing. I know a lot of people have been asking for that, and we have never seen that in surveys as well. So there's something we need to maybe put in as well.
So the this survey, I don't know if you've taken a look at it yet, Chris, but it did ask a lot about do you use the elevator at this station? If you don't use it, why not? If you do use it, what's your primary reason for using it? And it gave a list, and it also gave an open-ended question about, you know, you could fill in the blanks about why. And you know, at a station, at my home subway station, where there is no elevator, it didn't ask me, you know, to use the elevator because it seems to know that there isn't one. But it did allow me to provide and you know, is there anything else you want to tell us? I was like, yeah, there should absolutely be an elevator at this station. But you know, Long Island Cares would be probably another great question to ask, but then that might be a different, that's something we can bring back to them too. Thanks.
And Lisa, just to add one thing, when I did mention to them last time they should be mentioning elevators or ramp, they should be mentioning because some stations on the railroad, just for example, there is no elevator. Some of the stations are ramped or they're, you know, they're level, but still needs to be, you know, be part of that survey because a lot of stations we know on outside in Nassau and Suffolk, it's all ramp. But they should ask.
But then the question isn't, is there a ramp at your station? Because they already know the answer to that. It's, do you use the elevator? Does the elevator work? And why wouldn't you use it if it's at that station? So
sometimes I agree with what you're saying, Lisa. Just to add that there was a station that some people said they didn't want to use the ramp because it wasn't fixed properly, and I always tell them, put it as a complaint. And somewhere they was trying to put that in a survey the last time, and they couldn't find where to put it.
okay.
That's an example.
Have you seen the survey? Have you taken the survey yet?
Of course.
Okay, so then you see that there is an opportunity there for open-ended places where you can put that stuff. So, but let's move on. Let's move on to Larry.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Larry, you're up.
Larry's coming back in.
There we go.
Larry's coming in hot. He's connecting. Okay, Larry, you're up. Larry, we've lost you, and now you're back. Okay. While we wait for Larry, and he's gone again. Brian, in San Francisco, they have something called the Clipper card, which is in the other room. Otherwise, I'd show it to you. They have 22 different transit agencies that are all connected to the same card. Yet Omni can't even figure out how to get the Long Island Railroad Metro North connected to transit.
We can't get three on
Yeah.
the same.
Well, they got AirTrain, right? They just started that one, so
Yes.
small victories.
at one of the turnstiles, and when I came
I
back,
wanted-
it was open, so I didn't even have to tap out.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
In San Francisco, AirTrain is free.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
Did we get Larry back yet?
No.
All righty, well, why don't we jump down to Annabelle? Annabelle's doing it today, or is it Hector?
Annabelle.
It's me, Jerry. How are you?
Hey, Annabelle. Okay, so we'll turn it over to you, and then Larry can jump in with a question when you finish or whatever.
Yep.
So,
Sure. All right. Yeah, I have a pretty short update today, but I'll start first by mentioning that we are moving along with the ADA Stations Improvement Project. Currently, we're still working on Copenhagen, Lindenhurst, Amityville, and Massapequa Park. We actually have a weekend outage at Copenhagen for that work, and we are scheduled to start work for the ADA project at Locust Manor, St. Albans, and Laurelton at the beginning of next year. And then the big news that we have is obviously our November schedule changes effective on Monday, November 13th. The changes that we made were based on customer travel patterns and feedback that we received. So many of the changes that are coming are on the Port Washington branch based on these two factors. I'll go over just a few of the changes, but I really do encourage everybody to go onto the Train Time app or online to look at the schedules and see exactly what the changes are for their commute. But just a couple of the changes for the Port Wash branch again. So the current 6:47 a.m. train from Port Washington will now depart 5 minutes earlier, and it'll run express from Great Neck to Penn Station to accommodate some of those customers that cannot get on the express train. The 6:28 a.m. train from Great Neck will make stops at Little Neck and Douglaston. And then the current 7:19 a.m. train from Port Wash will run express from Great Neck to Penn Station. And then to accommodate those customers that, again, cannot make the express train because it's skipping their stop, the 7:02 a.m. train from Great Neck will make added stops at Little Neck and Douglaston. And there are a number of other changes on that branch, but I'll go on to the Babylon branch because we have a couple changes there as well. The 5:24 a.m. train from Wonton will now originate in Babylon at 5:04 a.m. and make local stops along the branch to Atlantic Terminal. And we are adding a 2:38 p.m. train from Penn Station stopping at Jamaica and making all local stops between Roxville Center and Babylon. And it'll be operating from Monday through Friday. So again, please check the Train Time app and the schedules online to see all the other additional changes. But that's pretty much it for my update this month. I'll take any questions.
yes, Annabelle. The one that I've been getting, I needed an explanation from your schedule makers because I don't have a defense for it. Right now, I understand with the new schedule, we have two expresses leaving Port Washington within 5 minutes of each other, both going to Penn Station. And the riders on the Port Washington branch, at least the ones that have been complaining to me, can't understand why they did that, why one of those, if you have to have two expresses 5 minutes apart, how come one isn't going to Grand Central? Yada, yada. And I just told like, I don't know. I'll have to find out for you.
Which
So it just
trains
seems
are
like
they?
you have the
Yeah,
two
yes.
expresses that close together.
Close. There. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Yeah, they said they're within 5 minutes apart, and they both go to they both go to Penn.
Mhm.
Now, if it's the fact that the first one is standing room only by the second stop or something like that, then
Which it could be the case. Let's see. Where there might not be capacity at Grand Central at that time, which might be why they're both going to Penn, but that's just me speculating on the spot. Let's see.
if you could just
I
look
think
into,
it's-
I don't want to take up a lot of time, but if you could just
Sure.
look into that and get back to me, just so that
Definitely.
this way, when it comes up in the future, or people ask, or I can respond to some of the people that have already asked me about that. I can
Mhm.
tell them reasoning for it.
Yeah, definitely. I'll look into it and I'll follow up with you,
Greatly appreciated.
of course.
Lisa, we have anybody else with a hand up?
We've got Christopher and Stu. Larry's back. Larry, you had your hand up earlier, though.
Yeah, I'm having just problems staying connected. Sorry.
Okay, did you have a question from before?
Well, my question was, well, I don't know if we're past this already about the survey, but I don't know how much the survey has evolved and or changed over the years. And I think they use part of that as the metrics as they compare from year to year. And I think I've lost you again.
No, we're here. I'm not sure. I think it has changed.
Very slightly.
Yeah. So
I
what-
did
Well, it's
note
just-
at our last meeting that I came to, I forget which month, there were a couple of comments on the surveys and I relayed them to our staff. So they were aware of some of the concerns prior. I'm not sure how much the survey has changed in the past few years. I can definitely check for you though.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
I don't
you.
know if Stu or Chris had their hand up first.
Chris did.
Okay.
Christopher?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Anna, it's good to hear from you, I should say, on the screen. Anna, as you're aware that not this weekend, but next weekend, you got to be aware that since the 7 and N train and both are not running, we need to make sure that we have staff at Flushing, Main Street, and Woodside, because not just for the regular customers, but the accessibility customers. Because a lot of people are reading the notices and they see Cross Owner is available on the Port Washington branch. The
Okay.
accessibility covers the 7 line and a partial of the N a little bit, which you can say you have to switch the buses, and by then you're already halfway wherever. But the concern is we just need to have staff Saturday and Sunday for customers to be aware. If you're going to call Washington, they may not be aware that there is a special button at the station, because we
Okay.
have to deal with language issues too.
Mhm.
So they've been asking, and I told them to put this in the My MTA app, but I wanted to bring this to your attention.
Okay, thank you for that. I will make a note of it. I'll speak with a person who handles the app. Maybe they can add like a banner or something of that nature, and I'll let stations know as well. So that all staff, they can just
I
pay
would-
attention to that.
I would just say if there can be a staff will be there, because a lot of them with language, they don't maybe understand. They have to hold their reduced fare Metro card, like an example, to
Mhm.
let them know the conductor is cross honoring. So it might be a language issue too. I'm not just talking about Mandarin and Cantonese, but Spanish and all languages that represent the 7 line.
Sure. Okay, definitely. Thank you
Yeah.
for the notice.
Yeah, and that's Willis Point. I don't want to forget. I know that is listed, but since those 2 stations are ADA accessible, it is something we need to keep an eye on, because it's going to be representing the 7 more.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Stu?
Thanks. So at the last meeting, I heard Lisa introduce me to Rob Free as one of the regular attendees at these meetings. And of course, she's right. But, it was never my intention to be a regular. Rather, I keep coming back because I hoped to get an answer to basically 2 questions I posed 13 months ago, which can be boiled down basically to asking why the Montauk branch train travels as slow as 38 miles an hour between some stations, and why doesn't the railroad slide the schedule of some South Fork trains by 10 minutes to avoid a conflict in single track territory, which can cascade into 2 trains being delayed when just one is late. Now, I have many other questions, but I might actually go away if there were good answers to those two. You know, and I'm kind of assuming you guys aren't getting the answer because you want me to keep coming back. But, you know, that's my sense of how you appreciate me. And I just want to point out that these might seem like very parochial questions, but they also might be representative of a much wider issue that I think the commuter council should be on top of, because these are details that really do impact the experience of riding the Long Island Railroad. And, you know, my interest is not just in improving the train for me, but to encourage more people to get out of their cars and take the train. That's not going to happen if the railroad continues to be what it is today. So I will, that's my comment there. If I can get answers on those two questions, maybe I'll disappear. I have two more comments if you'll allow me.
Oh, hold on, Stu. I just want you to know that not only do we talk about you while you're here, but sometimes we talk about you when you're not. And I ran into Rob on the street a couple days after the meeting, and we talked about your questions. And he actually assured me that he is having somebody look at it. He doesn't know he'd said to me, you know, I don't want that guy to think that I'm not answering him. I just didn't have an answer to give him, and I'm having people look into it. So
I
we
very
will,
much
we
appreciate
will
that.
follow up with him.
Okay.
But Stu, I want to say something, and with no disrespect to you at all, but I've ridden the Montauk branch for 40 years, 1982 to 2022. This is the first time I've ever heard anybody complain about this issue. I've ridden it. It's never been a concern for me. I don't know why it's a burr under your saddle. You have to understand the intricacies of scheduling trains. This isn't this isn't Petticoat Junction where you're running the one train from Hooterville to Pixley and there's nothing else in your way. Yeah, they can run the train a little bit faster between, say, Patchogue and Babylon. But if you get to Babylon 6 minutes early or whatever, then you're going to be just stuck behind a local and you're going to lose the 6 minutes someplace else. So there is definite reasonings for why they're doing what they're doing. But again, if you have that concern and you want to bring it up to the railroad and you want to contact Rob, but this is not really a commuter council issue. I hate to tell you that, but again, you're the lone voice in the wilderness as far as this one's concerned.
Well, let me follow up on that quickly, if I can. At the last meeting, you said basically to Rob Free that, of course, members of the council understand some of the challenges that the railroad faces, which commuters don't. And I'm sure you're right. But it seems to me that the council, not the railroad, but the council should be actively pushing out information to the ridership, by which I mean kind of reportage, criticism, as well as explanation. Why, when I get on the train, I see no work crews, and yet the train just slows down for 20 miles, you know, on the Montauk branch again. And I obviously can't speak to your experience. When I'm on the train, I hear people talk about how slow it is, groan when there are delays, which are frequent. So it does seem to me like it's a commuter council issue, but I defer to you because you are the commuter council. Just one quick last thing, unless you want to interrupt me. Lisa, I emailed the office asking for the FOIL officers for the Long Island Railroad or MTA. I have some experience filing FOIL requests, and agencies sometimes don't cooperate, but the MTA is the only agency that seems to bluntly ignore them. So if you can get me a name, a contact information, besides just the website where you can file a form, a name who's in charge of the FOILs at MTA, who's responsible for FOIL appeals, I would appreciate it.
I will ask Annabelle, but I'll ask her when we're not on the Zoom too. I
I
will send-
think I have a contact for you, Lisa, but I'd have to check. I'll send it to you if I do.
Yeah,
Great, I
we'll
appreciate
find
it.
ones too.
I mean, I've looked online, I've made phone calls, I have exchanged emails with some of the people at MTA who have given me a bunch of names and who wrote back and said, no, it's not me, and so on. So it's not like I didn't put an effort into finding out. Thanks.
There is, I don't know who the person is right now. It used to be a gentleman named Freeman, up in Albany. And that was his bailiwick, was if anybody had any concerns anywhere in the state of New York regarding FOIL requests, his office would expedite that or look into why you couldn't get it for whatever reason. Because there are certain things that aren't foilable.
Oh, I understand. You're talking about Rob Freeman and the Coog, and I'm familiar with that office. He's no longer there.
Yeah, I know he had some problems and he left, but that's the office that if you don't get satisfaction from the MTA, that's the place to go. I'm sure they replaced him with somebody else, but
Actually, Lisa, if you wouldn't mind if I answer Ron Troy's questions from the chat.
Sure, I
I
don't
s-
actually see them.
I
How
see
am I
he had
missing them?
2. The first one is how about Long Island bus services using Omni? I'm assuming, Ron, you mean nice buses or
Yes,
um,
and Suffolk and
right.
Hart.
So that's a county question or counties questions. I would assume no. But that question is really for the counties, not.
But it's
um,
also an Omni question.
So the goal is, oh, that was actually part of what I was gonna say before too. So Omni is delayed to at least 27, we think, on the commuter routes. And it's there, those contracts are being developed now. And there is great hope that it will also be rolled out to the other systems. I mean, it's really envisioned as one Metro New York that includes being able to access, to connect with NICE, with SCT, with Beeline. I don't know about Heart, because that's sort of a separate. I suppose it could. I don't see why not. And with Tor up in Rockland, with other, providers. It's on the Roosevelt Island tram, so anything should be possible, right? But
Yeah.
it should be on the New York ferry systems, the ones that you have to pay for, not the Staten Island, right? Because that's free these days. But there are it just apparently the infrastructure and architecture for omni connectivity exists, but it's just not there yet. So the agreements have to be reached and made, the contracts have to be signed, the money settling has to happen. We were on Path a week ago, and you can't use your Omni on your Path. The Port Authority has decided to go in a completely different direction than using the same vendor. So there are some, that was a decision. I think that from everything I've read about NICE and Beeline, that they are interested in pursuing an omni connectivity, and we're certainly interested in that. It's just not there yet.
it's something we can talk about when we go to Vision Long Island also, because we'll see people from Suffolk Bus and NICE, and we could feel them out.
Absolutely.
And Ron, to your second question, how does LIRR generate schedules? There are a number of factors that our service planning department looks at when generating schedules, from track work to larger capital investment projects, outages, not to mention it was just coordinating all the branches into one schedule, as well as feedback that we get from customers and travel patterns. So there are a number of things that service planning looks into, and they coordinate with every department to try their best to create the best schedule possible with the equipment that we have available and all of the other factors that go into it. So that's the short answer.
Well, but that wasn't exactly my question. I
Okay.
understand that there are things that influence it, of course, and I've known that for decades.
Mhm.
But the question is, are they using professional scheduling software, which would theoretically allow you to reflect influences, or are they doing this, well, by hand, someone using a box of index cards or something like that, to do it? Because theoretically, professional scheduling software would get, with given set of constraints, which of course can change, would optimize the schedules based on what the trains can do, how long the trains are,
Mhm.
what's passing sidings there are in single train track territory, and so on. So are they using professional systems, or is this being done on a big chalkboard, or,
I can confidently say there is no big chalkboard, but I'd have to follow up and see if there's any software that they use, even to just look at one factor or all of the factors. I don't have the answer readily available right now. But
I've
I
been
can-
wondering about that for well over 30 years.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay, so I will
30 years
follow up.
ago, it was a chalkboard,
I'm sure it's
25,
changed a
30
little
years
bit.
ago.
But I would say, Ron, one of the things that no matter, you can write the best program in the world, but it's not going to account for politics.
Oh, I
And
agree. You have to be able to find a way to input your constraints on what it does, that you have to have this, you can't have that. So I get that. And I would imagine, I'm not an expert, but I would imagine that there are products out there that can do a better job than people just trying to do it by hand. So that's what I'd love to hear if you're able to find out.
Sure, definitely,
Thanks.
of course.
Okay, we have anybody else?
no, we've got Kara and Jack have our social media and communications update.
Yes, Jack, do you want to kick us off?
We don't hear him.
Sorry, just one moment. Jack's audio is having
Here we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
My headphones weren't fully plugged in. Sorry, everybody. So getting right into it. Many riders complained this week about overcrowding and shortened trains on the railroad, particularly fans leaving the Islanders game this weekend who had to contend with hourly service on the Ronkonkoma line or Ronkonkoma branch due to track work and at other games and concerts across the island. We're also continuing to hear frustration with the Long Island Railroad's new schedule and limited fleet, particularly with service to Brooklyn, shorter rush hour trains, and the loss of timed connections.
We also, this was an issue last month as well, but we've heard a lot of complaints about the shuttle buses that supplemented for particularly Montauk branch service throughout October. That was an issue during Columbus Day weekend, but then we just received a call from somebody yesterday who was very frustrated about having to wait at Mastic Shirley for a very long time for a shuttle bus, and then later finding out that it had been canceled due to crowding, and there was just a big situation where the buses were not able to supplement for the train service that was needed. So there have been a few different complaints that we've seen on social media about the yellow school buses not being able to account for the same load as the trains themselves. And that's our update. Thank you.
Yeah, we have any questions?
I see we lost Annabelle, but we'll send her those notes too.
Okay. All right, does anybody have any questions on what we've discussed so far? All righty, we'll go down to old business. Do we have any old business, Lisa, that we need to bring up? I can't think of anything in particular.
Stews, but we've discussed that.
What's that? Oh, the
Yeah,
Yeah.
the twins.
Stu, just so you know, it's not like we're trying to put you off or anything, but we have to pick our battles. You know, we can't be breaking the railroad's cookies on every little thing. I mean, right now, I need to concentrate on trying to get the railroad to get timed connections in the evenings coming home. I think that is the critical thing when it comes to scheduling and trying to figure out how to make, you know, the choreography work. So again, I understand your concerns. I'm not trying to say that they're nothing. In a perfect world, it'd be great if we could solve that problem and make the trains run 6 or 7 minutes faster. But right now on our priority list, that's really kind of low. Timed connections in Jamaica is really kind of high. So that's kind of where we gotta, you know, we have to try and keep a good relationship with the railroad. So I mean, yes, we're going to break their cookies when necessary and where we feel we need to. And on other things, we're not going to push them so hard. So I just want you to know that.
I appreciate that, and I don't want you to think that I don't. And I didn't think this should be answered the first day necessarily, but I think that there's a tendency to push off smaller issues forever. And sometimes those issues are actually should be addressed. I mean, I could talk to you about how emergency rooms handle these things, but probably I shouldn't do that right now. I appreciate it, but I think that these questions should ultimately be answered. Again, because I think it's not, I don't think it's that trivial, and I think that it can actually work out to 20 minutes and not 5 minutes. And on a 3 or 3.5 hour train ride, that makes a difference.
Okay.
Thanks.
Where do you normally come? Where do you normally ride from? It's sounding like you're coming in from the Hamptons.
From Penn to Montauk.
All right, yeah. So you got a 3-hour ride. I could see where, you know, 10 minutes can mean something to you. I mean, I was, to be honest, I was only half that. You know, it's an hour and a half from Patchogue to Penn. So
I should
3
tell you,
hours from Montauk to Penn.
when I take the train now and then from Southampton, it's such a joy because it cuts out almost an hour and all of a sudden it feels fast. It's a really long drag sometimes. And it's longer when you have a 10-minute delay or a 12-minute delay. It's longer when the train doesn't depart on time, either from Jamaica or from Montauk. There's never an explanation to why that doesn't happen. And, you know, as a commuter, again, as somebody who rides, if somebody explained to me, look, this is what happened, it's unavoidable, we really did do everything right, I might not feel so displeased with the railroad. But we end up just getting delay after delay, and you never know why. And you always wonder, you know, did the crew just not come out of the shed in time? So anyway, I'll leave it at that. I don't want to take more of your time. Thanks.
And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Christopher has his hand up.
All right, Chris, what you got?
Hey, yes, just to add one thing on old business, I do take that train as well because I have some relatives, actually, Jerry, right between Spionk and West Hampton. And I could tell you, it's nice to see, you know, when the train's coming from the Monterey thing, it does go express. And I agree with you. There are times that train does get into Babylon, like not just 6 minutes early, but sometimes 8 minutes early. And I know you got to give some space from the local trains. That means they're already ahead of us. But at the same time, also, there are times we need to look at also equipment issues as well. I know I brought this up to Rob a couple of times, and he said there's been some issues with these equipment issues. So in the future, can we just keep an eye on that? Because that's when we see trains get canceled a lot. And then there are times you have to wait additional maybe 2 or 3 hours sometimes, or if lucky, they will have a replaced train. But it's still a little difficult on that.
Okay,
Something, yeah. Thank you. Sorry, I pressed the wrong
that's
button.
all right. So noted. We got anybody else with their hand up there, Lisa? Lisa, can you hear me?
No, I'm admiring Chris's background there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was a little dazzling.
Uh,
All right, no other old business. Anybody have any new business to bring up? There being no new
Happy Veterans-
business, last call
Happy
for any
Veterans-
questions, comments, or before we close it up?
Our next meeting will be the PCAC meeting on December 14th. And we've invited Jamie Torres Springer to be our guest.
All righty. So with that, well, since it's not a formal meeting, I guess I don't need a motion to adjourn. So just say goodnight, everybody, and thank you for coming.
Good night. Safe travels, Brian. And Larry, drive safely.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
And happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Happy
And happy
holiday.
Veterans
and-
Day.
Thanksgiving.
Night, everybody.
Yes, good night.
Good night.
And I hope to see you guys at Brooklyn College tonight. That's where I'm heading.
Yes, I will be there as well. I'll see you there, Chris.
Yes, tonight starts the IBX.
Yes, and I'm actually walking there as we speak, taking my sweet time.
Okay.
Hey,
All right.
there you go.